Tom Bauer uttered just 2 words. The entire conversation around Meghan Markle's reported return to Britain exploded into something far bigger than a simple family visit. Desperation, failure, that was it. No long explanation, no careful diplomacy. Just 2 brutal words that instantly sent royal watchers asking the same question. If Meghan once described Britain as cold, racist, unforgiving, and impossible to live in, then why is she suddenly looking back toward the very palace she spent years trying to leave behind? And if Prince Harry fought so publicly to escape royal life, why does every road now seem to lead straight back to the institution they once claimed had destroyed them? The answers, according to voices now speaking louder than ever, may have nothing to do with forgiveness and everything to do with survival.
Harry and Meghan, and it's all this crap that comes out all the time because it's obviously in their interest that there is this meeting between Harry and his father. But if you're the royal family, and I know this for a fact from talking to people close to them, right, there's a lot of wariness about this, right? They don't trust them.
They run out of ideas. They can't really more work for Netflix or Spotify or any of the main streamers. And their finances are basically in jeopardy over the long term.
Piers Morgan has just been pretty indiscreet in terms of the royal hatred towards the return of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
And we know that Harry is still well connected, of course, with the Invictus Games, which is that's the centerpiece of this whole visit. We can expect them in Birmingham for those activities.
The timing alone has people talking. One deal after another that once looked like unlimited success has quietly lost its shine. Projects that were announced with enormous excitement suddenly disappeared from headlines. Streaming partnerships that once looked unstoppable no longer carry the same confidence. The glamorous image built after the so-called freedom flight suddenly doesn't appear nearly as untouchable as it once did. That is exactly where Tom Bauer's comments landed with maximum force. He didn't paint a picture of a couple choosing to reconnect with family. Instead, he painted the image of 2 people running out of options while realizing that the one thing they thought they could replace simply cannot be replaced.
Well, I think you can summarize it in 2 words: desperation and failure. They have reached a sort of a headwind. They run out of ideas. They can't really more work for Netflix or Spotify or any of the main streamers. And their finances are basically in jeopardy over the long term. And Meghan is someone who is desperate for fame. She's desperate for recognition. She's desperate for money, of course, and status.
Then came the numbers, and those numbers completely changed the conversation. Maintaining a California mansion, private staff, elite security, luxury travel, and the lifestyle expected from globally recognized celebrities isn't cheap. According to the discussion, millions disappear every single year just to keep everything standing exactly where it is. Suddenly, the royal connection begins looking less like an emotional reunion and more like an incredibly valuable brand that may never have truly been replaceable. If that brand weakens, what happens next? That question keeps returning again and again because people watching this story believe the financial pressure explains far more than any carefully worded public statement ever could.
That Harry and Meghan have sprung this last minute to create this sort of drama and chaos, which is pretty standard for those 2. And I feel like that they've railroaded the king, whereby if he can't see them, like I said, he's going to suffer negative consequences.
The argument becomes even harsher when Bauer suggests that the public eventually lost interest in products disconnected from royal controversy. During the years when explosive interviews, documentaries, and accusations dominated headlines, global attention remained enormous. But once those stories slowed down, something else happened. Lifestyle brands, products, and commercial ventures suddenly faced a much tougher audience. Critics now claim the world's fascination wasn't built around candles, jam, or celebrity branding. It was built around access to the royal family itself. And once those bridges were burned, the value attached to that connection slowly began disappearing too. That is the uncomfortable possibility now dominating so many conversations.
And it just seems to her that a visit to the royal family in Britain would give her or restore to her the credibility she once had. I think for Harry it's worse, because Harry is isolated in California. He has actually now got no role at all. And I'm sure he now misses his family, he misses his roots, he misses England.
Then, another painful question entered the discussion. If this visit is truly about reconnecting children with an elderly grandfather whose health has become an increasing concern, why does the same compassion appear absent elsewhere? Critics immediately pointed toward Meghan's own father, Thomas Markle. Here sits another aging grandfather living in the same country, publicly expressing his desire to meet his grandchildren, yet remaining completely absent from their lives. For many observers, this comparison instantly shattered the emotional narrative surrounding the reported return to Britain. If family is really the priority, why does one grandfather remain invisible while another suddenly becomes the focus of enormous attention?
I don't think Harry is going to get the Ryback agreement for protection he wants from. This is the committee that decides whether his life is at risk, and therefore he and Meghan, as he demanded, should have armed protection throughout.
That contradiction refuses to disappear. Father's Day arrives with heartfelt tributes celebrating Prince Harry's parenting, while silence continues surrounding Thomas Markle. To many critics, that silence has become louder than any statement. They argue that sympathy cannot be selective without raising uncomfortable questions. Every missing phone call, every ignored opportunity, every public tribute directed one way but never the other becomes another piece of a puzzle people believe they are slowly solving. Whether fair or unfair, perception often becomes stronger than explanation.
He's never met his grandchildren. It's just insane to me, Tom. Like, the cold-heartedness of it is just, it's a lot for a woman who thinks she's so kind.
The discussion becomes even more emotional when people revisit Thomas Markle's role in Meghan's earlier life. Supporters of his position frequently remind audiences that he reportedly paid for education, supported major expenses, and remained involved throughout much of her younger years. They argue that one mistake involving staged photographs resulted in permanent exile, while far greater public family conflicts elsewhere have seemingly remained open to future reconciliation. Whether everyone agrees with that comparison or not, it continues fueling endless debate across television studios, newspapers, and social media alike.
Meghan puts up a picture of Harry about how he's the best Papa Sussex ever, which, by the way, I always thought sounded like Papa Smurf, and they should not call him that, but we'll move on. Daddy characters not mentioned in any of these. Number one is Charles, and number two is, of course, Meghan's father, Thomas Markle.
Tell me, Paula, is there a reason that Meghan didn't wish her father a happy Father's Day? I'm confused.
Yes, she still has never talked to her father, who lost a leg in the Philippines, has come back for treatment in the States. She refuses to see him because he embarrassed her. Remember when he did the whole, like, I'm reading about myself and my daughter in the barbershop in Mexico. And she's, oh, you took money for photographs. I'm done with you. Never spoke to him again.
And then comes perhaps the most uncomfortable comparison of all. One grandfather lives surrounded by royal estates, centuries of history, unimaginable wealth, and global prestige. The other lives with medical challenges, personal struggles, and hopes that appear increasingly unlikely to be fulfilled. Critics insist this contrast is impossible to ignore because, from their perspective, it transforms an emotional family reunion into something that looks far more strategic than sentimental. The optics alone have become explosive. And once people begin looking through that lens, nearly every reported decision starts appearing connected by one single thread: reputation, influence, opportunity.
His reporting is much closer to the truth than Bronte's, because he's basically saying, look, I know for a fact, and as I say, he was out partying with Edo and Beatrice the other day. He is friends with Camilla. I know for a fact that the royals don't want these two coming back, that they're not looking forward to it. And actually confirming the report that I made earlier this week, that there is genuine fear that Meghan is going to use the trip to try and save her failing business.
The controversy only grows darker from here because another explosive claim began circulating behind palace walls, according to commentators discussing conversations with royal insiders. The biggest fear inside the monarchy isn't simply that Harry may return. The fear is what happens after the cameras start rolling. Critics claim there is growing concern that every appearance, every photograph, every family interaction could quickly become another commercial opportunity. That's why trust has become the single word repeated more than any other. Not anger, not forgiveness. trust. And once trust disappears inside a family already fractured by interviews, documentaries, memoirs, and years of public accusations, rebuilding it becomes almost impossible. Then another theory ignited fierce debate. Some commentators suggested that bringing Archie and Lilibet to Britain could dramatically soften public reaction. Their reasoning was simple. Crowds may criticize adults, but children naturally change the emotional atmosphere surrounding any public appearance. Whether that theory reflects reality or not, it has become one of the most discussed possibilities surrounding the reported visit. At the same time, others argue that King Charles' greatest emotional weakness has always been his grandchildren. While some believe Prince William reportedly sees enormous institutional risk in any meeting, others speculate that the king may find it emotionally impossible to refuse if the children are present. That difference in perspective is exactly what keeps fueling endless speculation. As these debates intensified, another rumor spread rapidly across royal commentary. Questions began surrounding stories involving unseen photographs, private family moments, and claims that have never been publicly verified. Supporters believe such moments happened behind closed doors. Skeptics immediately asked why such enormously valuable images had never surfaced if they truly existed. Neither side possesses definitive public proof, yet the argument itself reveals something even more important. Confidence has eroded so dramatically that every new claim now faces immediate suspicion before many people even consider believing it. Once public trust begins disappearing, every story becomes another battlefield. Piers Morgan then intensified the entire conversation by insisting that, based on people close to the royal family, there remains overwhelming resistance toward welcoming Harry and Meghan back into the royal circle. According to the discussion, the concern isn't merely about past disagreements, but about whether private conversations can ever remain private again. That is where comparisons suddenly appeared between Prince Harry and Brooklyn Beckham, a comparison designed to suggest the pain felt by famous families when relationships publicly collapse. Whether audiences agree with the analogy or not, it instantly dominated headlines because it captured something deeper than celebrity gossip. It reflected disappointment, fractured loyalty, and relationships damaged almost beyond recognition. Money then returned to the center of the conversation. Critics argued that struggling commercial ventures, reduced celebrity influence, and fading connections with Hollywood's biggest circles may explain why Britain suddenly appears attractive once again. They question whether this journey represents reconciliation or reputation management at the exact moment public interest needs to be reignited. Others went even further, reviving debates over royal titles and asking whether individuals who no longer perform royal duties should continue benefiting from royal status around the world. Those arguments have become louder with every passing week, transforming what could have been a private family visit into an international debate over privilege, responsibility, and public perception. Perhaps the deepest wound, however, remains the relationship between the two brothers. Reports continue suggesting repeated attempts at communication have led nowhere, leaving the distance between Harry and William feeling greater than ever. Many observers believe William's concerns now extend far beyond personal disagreements and focus instead on protecting the future stability of the monarchy itself. If the reported visit takes place, cameras will inevitably follow every movement, every glance, every unanswered question. One brief meeting or one visible absence could generate weeks of worldwide headlines. That possibility alone explains why anticipation continues building despite the palace offering almost no public confirmation. And that brings this extraordinary story to where it stands today. A king reportedly balancing family loyalty against institutional responsibility. A prince searching for a path back toward the country he once left behind. A duchess facing relentless questions over motive. Children suddenly becoming central figures in one of the monarchy's most sensitive chapters. Supporters continue hoping for reconciliation. Critics remain convinced something far more strategic is unfolding beneath the surface. For now, nothing has been officially resolved. The palace continues saying very little, speculation continues growing louder, and with every new report, the same haunting question refuses to disappear. After everything that has happened, can trust ever truly be rebuilt? Or has the royal family reached a point where every reunion simply creates the next chapter of an even bigger royal storm?